Hello, everybody. It is Friday at 1 o'clock, and here you are for Facebook Live. And it's not live because it is my last Friday free to run around with my family and enjoy them before we get all locked down in our fall plans. So here I am because it is super important to me that I show up for you and I give you a training every Friday. So to the best of my ability, I will be here on Fridays at 1. And if you are coming from Instagram, my apologies. Instagram will not let me upload files this large, like videos this large, and schedule them in advance. So I want to welcome you here to our group and say that I really appreciate you showing up. So today's topic is, does my student need a student planner? Okay, I'm going to answer that question by asking you another question. My question is, what are your goals? What are you hoping that your preteen or teen will learn? If your goal is to always have to manage their time for them, and if your goal is to help them to make sure they do everything all of the time, that it will be an outside influence that is getting them to do their work, and it's not their own motivation, it's outside motivation, then absolutely don't get a planner. But I'm willing to bet that as a parent, as a homeschooler, as a traditional schooler, you want your student to have self-motivation. You want them to be able to keep track of their own tasks, to show up on time, to finish things on time, to know when the due dates are, and not just know when the due dates are, but to know when the pieces of that project should be done in order to meet those due dates, so they are not up the night before trying to finish that essay that they should have been working on for the past 3 weeks. So a student planner is very, very important if those are your goals, because student planners are going to help your student to become independent learners, independent goal setters, and self-motivated to take on their own tasks and their own responsibilities. This is a huge deal for me, for Discern to Learn. This is something that we work on. I teach this in all of my classes. It is so important that students learn to be responsible for themselves, for their own schoolwork, and their own appointments. Okay, that doesn't mean that you are just completely hands off. Until they get there, they are going to need someone looking over and keeping them accountable. But it is really important, and it's a very good first step to get them to start doing that. So if you're homeschooling, that means actually physically setting aside a time at the beginning of the week for them to make sure that their planner is prepared for the week. So it means that they will begin to learn those habits in their own life. It's important for me to be able to stop on, I usually actually do it Friday for the week coming, to sit down and take a look at all the things I have on my calendar, all the things I need to make sure get done, make sure I'm scheduling in my family time, make sure I'm scheduling in my exercise, make sure I'm scheduling in my time with God, make sure I am, making room for other things in my life that really matter and putting them all on my agenda. Because if something is a priority, it should be on your planner. If it's not on your planner or not on your calendar or your agenda, then it's not likely to happen. So all the things that matter should be on there, and the same is true for your student planner. So I want to right now just go over, what does a student planner do for your student's brain? All right, student planners are something important, and they actually help your student to develop different things. And one of the things that a student planner does is it helps with memory. So student planners are going to help things to be easier for the student to remember. If you write it down, if you know it's there, if you know it has to be done, then you're going to remember. So often we will say, oh, well, I'm just going to move that task to another day. But if we don't move it on our planner, if we don't move it on our calendar, we're going to forget it when the time comes. Students are no different, because when it comes right down to it, we are trying to do the things we love first, and we really want to push to the back burner those other things that maybe we know are important, but really they aren't something that are a passion for us. So for a lot of students, that will be math, that will be language arts, that might be science. These are going to be the things that your student is going to have to prioritize maybe it might not be what they would do if they could choose anything with their time. Would you choose to go to work if you could do anything with your time? Probably not, unless you absolutely love your job. And students are no different. If they had the opportunity to manage their time and do only what they felt like doing, they probably wouldn't choose school. So memory is really important, and we tend to forget the things that really don't bring us joy. So it's really going to help with memory. So short-term, long-term memory. And this is also a written reminder. So it's something that they're going to have to bring into their daily habits to look at their planner. For me, I have to set alarms on my calendar when I have classes, when I have appointments, because I get so focused on one task that I'm doing that the time will just go right past and I won't even notice. So for me, I've learned that that's something that I need to do. And that's an auditory memory trigger because I'm not going to go back and check the planner all of the time. So the other thing that planners do in your brain is they help with your working memory, and this helps you to focus. So having a plan frees up your working memory. You don't have to have this constant to-do list like pinging in the back of your mind all of the time. It's written down. It's, you know it's there, and you can go back and look, so you don't have to remember. You don't have to have it in your short-term, like tip of your tongue thing that you have to be recalling all of the time. When you do that, it frees up your brain. It frees up your brain to focus on the task at hand so that you can get more done and you can be more productive and you can do better at the things that you are doing at that moment. So having a planner is really going to help with focus, and it's going to help and it does that by freeing up your working memory. And the last thing is a written plan. It acts as an external memory cue. So it helps with long-term planning. So I might have a really long-term goal, and I might have broken it into small chunks, but maybe I will forget that in 60 days, I should be finished this project, and then I should start this other thing. It's really important to make long-term plans. So very often in schoolwork or in our lives, in our everyday lives and goals, we have large projects that are done over weeks and months, and sometimes even years for our goals. And those larger projects, they need external cues. So we need to see it come up on our planner. Oh yeah, I was supposed to move on to this next piece now. Or I need to make sure that I reach out and find an accountability partner about this. That is super important, because otherwise we're just going to kind of get bogged down in what we're doing, and we're going to forget to move on to the next bit because we're not constantly reviewing what we need in our long-term goals. Okay, so I've had a parent ask me, well, do they need a planner or an agenda? What's the difference? Here is the difference. Okay, the difference is on a planner, you mark the due dates, D-O. These are all the things I have to do, okay? And on an agenda, you mark the due dates, D-U-E. So a good student planner will be a combination of the two of these. So not only will you have pages where you set out a goal, like, okay, well, I have this large research paper due and it's due in 6 weeks. Okay, so I need to figure out, these are all the steps I need to do, and I need to have this done by this date, and this done by this date, and this done by this date. But then you take those dates and you put it on your agenda. And then you take this, so by this date, I have to be done all of my research. So you have the due date for that research, and you have the due date for that essay, and all the pieces in between. But then you need to break that down to smaller pieces on your agenda and write into your agenda, on this day, or I'm going to spend 1 hour doing research. And then you put that so many days into your agenda, and then you know that that will be done on time. So you don't have to be constantly looking forward and going, oh, what do I have coming up? Oh, I have to make sure that I've done all the research for this research project. Oh, when is that going to fit in? You just fit it in. You say, okay, well, that's going to take 3 hours. So I'm going to block off 3 1-hour slots to work on research. And you just go through your agenda and you mark off 3 1-hour slots. and you make sure that those 1 hour slots are done before the date that you have set aside as the due date for your research, and not immediately before, because what if something happens? What if you fail? What if you need to make a new plan? So what if we all fail? So we have to build that into our system so that we don't expect that this is going to be finished immediately on the due date, because sometimes things don't happen like planned, and we have to adjust, and we have to make sure that that's possible. So these are the skills that we talk about in our classes with our planners. So a good student planner is going to have both. It's going to have calendars. It might have actual day timers, like, so you can set aside time every day. So it might have like a monthly plan, and then it might have like a weekly plan with every day at certain hours you do certain things, and then it will have overall planning. So that is the difference between a planner and an agenda. Okay, so do I think that your preteen and your teen need to have a planner? Absolutely. Absolutely they do, because your preteen and your teen need to be learning the skills required to prepare them for adulthood. And in adulthood, you don't plan to be there telling them, hey, you have a dentist appointment. Don't forget, you have to have that report in at work. They're going to have to take care of that themselves. And the best way that we can help them is to teach them slowly over time to take on more and more responsibility. So I encourage you, in fact, in all of my Discern to Learn classes, I ask that your student have a planner of some kind, and don't spend a whole lot of money on a planner. First of all, because it might not be one that works for your student, and you might have to change it up. So you have to try out a few different styles of things to see what's going to work. And there's really no need to spend a lot of money on a planner. There's just not. So every student has different ways that they work best. So if you can talk to your student, what do you think would work for you? Would a planner like this work? Would a planner like this work? Which pieces do you think you would need, and which pieces wouldn't you need? And homeschool parents, I want to encourage you to let go some of the responsibility that you carry about the weekly schedule. So include them in the planning and in the agenda of that week, so that your agenda and their agenda kind of mesh. So they need to see when all the outings are. They need to see when they have classes. They need to see when they have appointments. They need to see when so-and-so is coming to visit, so that they can get ahead in their classes so they don't get behind. This is going to help them. So you can't expect that they're just going to be able to take on a piece of it without seeing the bigger picture. Because I have students that sometimes say, well, I had this plan, but then my mom said we had to go, and I didn't know we had a plan. So you see, it's very important that you kind of stay on the same page as a family. So maybe you need a family calendar that's going to have all the big things that everybody is doing, and make sure that your student includes those things on their personal agenda and planner, because that's going to be important when they are making their plans and their schedules. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. And there are so many kinds of planners. I have students who work off a whiteboard. I have students who work off Google Calendars. I have other students who do Google Calendars and a notebook, so that they do the long-term planning in the notebook and they do the scheduling on Google Calendar. That works very, very well. And it doesn't have to be Google Calendar. There's lots of apps. There's lots of just plain calendars that you can get. So just make sure that you look for something. So dig around online, find some few free printables, and see what you can find. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you found this very helpful and enlightening. And if you have questions, please do put them in the comments. I would love to answer those. And if you are looking for your student to become more self-motivated, more accountable, and be able to take on responsibility for themselves, I invite you to check out Discern to Learn at discerntolearn.com and learn how we do that. So you can specifically check out the 2 e-guides that are there, 12 Weeks to Writing Confidence, or 5 Steps to Language Arts with a Purpose. And each of those show how we incorporate the planning into that, especially the 12 weeks one. The 12 Weeks to Writing Confidence really does show you how we do that. So if you have questions, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining me today. Happy end of the summer, and I will see you all in the fall.